Hey YouTube, it's SC Closer again with another episode of Southern Style. I think our last video we were talking about tone, and we were talking about how to adjust your guitar to cut through a mix. And Dr. Tone came on, and he actually told us to turn up the mids, and got some response out of that, and I believe that if you try that, that may work for you. But let's say you've been having trouble hearing yourself in the mix, and maybe at band practice, or maybe when you're playing live on stage, either way, and you turned up your mids, and you still can't hear yourself. There may be another problem. The problem may be amp placement. Yes, it matters where you put your amp if you're going to hear it. Let's say you put your amp and you sit it on the floor and you're standing about 3 or 4 feet in front of it, and you got it turned up wide open and you can't hear it. Well, you're probably not going to hear that unless you have ears in your ankles, because that amplifier, the sound is coming out of the speaker and it's blowing right past your calves and your ankles, and you're not going to really hear that. You might hear it okay by itself, but when the rest of the band's playing, you're not going to hear that. And then people out in the audience, that might be like 15, 20 feet away, that thing's going to be killing them. It's going to be so loud coming off the stage because they're going to be in a place where they can hear it. So how do we address this? Well, you need to get the amp up. I usually tell people, like, if you have a combo, get a little amp stand. Get a little stand. Get the amp up off the floor, and have it tilted back so that the speaker's angled up, and get it far enough away from you so that your head is kind of in line with the sound and how it's going to flow out, or how it projects out. Now, there's a lot of people tell me, it's like, well, if I put the amp on the floor, it sounds like I get more bass response, and I kind of like that. And that's true. That's called bass coupling. And if you put your amplifier on the floor, it does tend to, especially a combo amp, it does tend to pick up some bottom end. I think even some of the 412 cabinets, if you don't have casters on them, if you set them flat on the floor, they tend to pick up a little of that too. That's good. And I understand why people like that, but I'll say this: if you play in a lot of different venues, the stages are all going to be different. Sometimes you're going to be up on a platform type of stage. Sometimes you're going to be on the floor in the corner somewhere. You might be on a wood floor. You might be on a tile floor. You could be on carpet. There's all sorts of different surfaces you could be on. You could be on a tractor trailer bed. That's steel. You could be on anything. So when you set that amp down and you start to play it, it's going to sound different. Now, they always sound different in different rooms anyway, but when you set it on a different surface, the amp's going to sound different. If you get yourself an amp stand and lift that amp up off the floor, you're going to lose a little of that bass coupling effect. But that's what the knobs are for. You compensate for it. Turn your bass up some. If you won't have to, turn some of the highs down. But generally, just kick your bass up a little bit. And that'll compensate for it. You'll find that if you have the amp up on a stand off the floor, your sound is going to be much more consistent. Because as you go from venue to venue, you're not placing the amp on different surfaces and getting a different bass coupling effect. You're going to have it up in a stand, and as such, it's going to be very similar each venue you go to. It's going to be much more consistent, and I like the consistency. I pretty much can set it up and just do very minor tweaks to get the sound where I like it, and so keep that in mind. But getting back to amp placement, get it up off the floor, get it tilted towards you. Now, this is something that I found that I like to do, and I didn't come up with this. I saw other people doing it, and I asked about it. And I thought it was a good idea, and I decided to try it one time, and it seems to work pretty well. If you're playing smaller places, it's almost it almost hurts you to have a back line, because if you have a back line and you got the amps back behind you, okay, they're coming off the stage. And a lot of these smaller venues, you can't have but, so much of a volume level. They don't want you to be too loud. And you can't control that. And if you have a sound guy out front running stuff, he cannot control the volume coming off the stage. You do. And it makes it difficult for him to get a good mix. So another problem we ran into with backline is that we would tilt the amps. We would take them and kind of tilt them in like this so that the drummer could hear better. And now if you're running combos, you might not need to do this so much, but if you're running closed cabinets, you tend to have to do that. And when you do that, it's pointed towards the center. And if your singer is in front in the center, then it's pointed at him. And what I've found is that the singer, if the guitar amps are pointed towards him, and even if you got one or two, if they're pointed towards him, he has to have his vocals up in the monitors because he's catching so much of this guitar. He has to be able to hear over it. So you turn him up in the monitors. Well, the problem is that if he's here, his microphone's here, and the guitar amps being being picked up and amplified through his microphone, and so your guitar amps are coming out of his monitors, and as you turn his monitors up, you're turning your guitars up to a lesser extent, but it's still happening. So you have to keep cranking. The stage volume starts to get unbearable. Okay, it just gets too loud. All right. So the solution that I have found is get combo amps for the smaller venues. Get yourself a combo amp. Get yourself a stand. Sit the amp up on the front of the stage, back towards you. Point it back towards your drummer. Okay, and set it out far enough from where you're going to be standing that you're going to have the placement that you need, so that the sound is getting as close to your head as possible. Okay. Set it up like that. Adjust your amplifiers to where everybody on stage can hear them. You'll find that you can run your amps at a little bit lower stage volume, and everybody will be able to hear better. When you do this, you won't have to have them as loud, and everybody's going to be able to hear really good on stage. I have, at least in my experience, this has worked, and I know other people that have done this before me and since I've been doing it, and it works. Okay, that solves a lot of problems. You get your stage volume down, everybody on stage is able to hear everything. Your singer's not catching all of this because it's angled back at the drummer. It's not being picked up by his mic and reamplified. It's not being picked up by any of the mics out front and being reamplified. If anything, maybe the drummer, if your drummer sings, maybe his mic picks a little bit of it up, but it's nothing like the mics when you have mics out front and you have a back line. They pick up so much. So it really helps in that area. So then you mic your amps. You have to mic them and run them through front of house. All right, and run them out the mains. It makes it a lot easier to get a good mix out front, and everybody hears good on stage. I think that works really well. Give it a try. If you have anything that you like to do or any other suggestions, let me know. Now, if you go to bigger venues, play bigger places, yeah, you can run a back line. That's fine. I know one band that I'm in, when we play a big stage, we run dual amps. We'll run small amps out front, and we'll run bigger amps in the back. As a back line, we mainly sometimes we amp the small, we mic the small amps, and sometimes we mic the big ones. It doesn't matter. The big ones are just back there so that everybody else on stage can kind of hear them, and we can turn the volume levels down. Again, it's not about being louder. It's about covering more area. So if you have two amplifiers and you set one in the back and you got one up front, you can turn the volumes down. And you know where you're going to be standing, you want to set the volumes to where you're hearing both amps kind of equally. And when you do that, the volume level is going to be lower, but you're going to be able to walk anywhere on your side of the stage, and you're going to hear yourself pretty much the same. It's going to be real easy to hear yourself, and I really like that. So when you get an opportunity to do that, give that a try as well. So remember, amp placement. You know, if you've already turned up your mids and you're still having trouble hearing yourself in the mix, you know, you can't hear yourself on stage, look at your amp placement. Where do you have your amp in perspective with where your ears are at? You want that thing to be pointed up so that you can hear it. Now, you can set them down on the ground if you want to, but you're going to have to get further away from them. You're going to have to get further away from them, and then you have the coupling effect that we discussed already. If you got 412s and stuff like that, I mean, you know, you might can angle them back or something. It's better to use the top cabinets because the top speakers are angled a little bit, and you're going to have to try to get further out away from them if you can. One trick you can do if you like to use 412s, run two of them. Get you a bottom cab and get a top cab. You don't even have to hook the bottom cab up if you don't want to. But that top cab is going to be up around ear level. You're going to have that right around your head, and I know you're not going to turn that up too loud. If it's up around your head, you're not going to want to turn that up too loud if you're standing in front of it. I had somebody tell me one time, it says, "Man, you seem like you don't play as loud on stage with a full stack as you do with a half stack." And I said, "That's because I can't take that. I can't take that up around my head. It makes me turn it down." So anyway, I hope those suggestions and tips have helped you. If they did, let me know. Write some comments, subscribe, let your friends know, and I'll have another topic coming up this weekend. I'll probably get a couple videos up this weekend. So and maybe we even have Dr. Tone. Maybe I can get a hold of him, get him to come back on again. He seems to be kind of popular. So, all right, well, that's it for now. This is SC Closer. I'll talk to you later.